After losing their concessions starting 2021, KTM learned a very important lesson last season. Up until 2020, KTM were used to throwing money at their problems, and with the luxury of unlimited testing with race riders, they always found something or the other, which would fix their issues. But, without concessions, they couldn't do that anymore, and as a result, their riders were always testing new parts during race weekends. Now all tracks are not the same and vary a lot, and what works at one track would often not work at the next. Starting from 2022, KTM decided to change their philosophy of bringing in new parts for every problem and focused on extracting the most out of their RC16. However, a major change in operating philosophy is not an easy thing to implement, and it took them all of the 2022 season to gauge the potential of their bike and find some sense of consistency. And continuing the steady progress throughout 2022, KTM have decided to bring small updates in a lot of parts rather than bringing a whole new bike for 2023. Speaking after the postseason test at Valencia, KTM team manager Francesco Guidotti said, "There are some new parts everywhere, in the chassis, in the engine, electronic updates, and we have also tested a new aerodynamic package." Revealing winter testing plans, Guidotti continued, "Our project is still young and we are working hard in all areas. There is a lot of work to be done. We will go to the wind tunnel and we have 2 tests scheduled in Jerez, one in November and another in December." Another problem is that with the departure of Miguel Oliveira, Raul Fernandez and Remy Gardner, Brad Binder is the only rider continuing with KTM. That makes his impressions and feedback of the new bike even more crucial. Binder had been testing out a new chassis for 2023 in the last few rounds of the 2022 season and admitted to having a few problems with the front end stability. Finding even more improvements at the Valencia test, Binder was pleased with KTM's progress. After the test, Binder said, "Over the race weekend I had a lot of problems with the front end. The braking and cornering were not very good. With this bike, those areas are super good. In terms of feel, the bike is much easier to ride. But I have a bit of trouble coming out of the corner. So we need a combination of the new and the old." When asked if the Aprilia-inspired ground effect fairing was any good, Binder said, "It's hard to say. Because when we change the aerodynamic stuff, we don't just change that, but the whole package. But the package felt good, I liked it. There was a lot of wind at that time and I felt it was better with the wind." Echoing KTM's new philosophy, Binder said, "The things we have changed are not huge. It's little things that really address our issues. That's a bit of the new KTM philosophy. If it ain't broke, leave it." Driving the development at KTM, MotoGP legend and KTM test rider DANI Pedrosa was also present at the Valencia test, however he did not get to ride because his bike was being tested by Brad Binder. DANI said, "Brad is riding my bike, which is next year's prototype motorcycle, which is not yet the final version." Let's see the comment from Brad, who is used to the motorcycle, and see if he really notices a step for the better. Replacing Miguel Oliveira in the factory team will be Jack Miller, and switching from Desmos Adichie to the RC16, Miller's immediate feedback about the KTM is very valuable for them. Outlining the immediate value Miller brings to the table, DANI said, "Also Jack, who comes from a quite different motorcycle, let's see what comments he has and if he likes it. He comes from the reference brand at the moment, so he is going to give us a lot of valuable feedback. It is not only the difference of the bike, but I also believe the point of strategy, which is one of the most important parts of a race weekend. How the team approaches the results, and how it approaches the races, which is our weak point. With the addition of sprint races next year, this experience will help us a lot." And speaking of Jack Miller, the Aussie found himself in the groove relatively easily in his new surroundings. Finishing 70 laps without any problems, Jack admitted that he was able to adapt to the KTM much easier than he had anticipated. Miller said, "I had a lot of fun, the weather was fantastic for the tests. Although the wind was strong in the morning, we were able to get to the track early. I was able to complete a lot of laps by the end of the session. This test was all about getting to know the bike and understanding the team. I was able to adapt to the bike better than I expected. After so much time on another bike, I felt quite comfortable. The most important thing was that I stayed on the bike, and in the end, I am very happy with how it went." With the return of Pol Espargaro, KTM will have 3 very capable riders to push the limits of the RC16. With the new RC16 developed with a new cautious approach, will 2023 be the year KTM riders get to have a say in the fight for the title? Let's chat in the comments below. And before you leave, don't forget to hit the like button and consider subscribing if you aren't already subscribed.